James Lovell is the founder and director of the Ministry of Fun Santa School, the longest running genuine training school for professional Father Christmases in the UK. How are you doing?
I'm great, thank you. Absolutely brilliant, Toby. And a ho, 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 and a happy Christmas to you.
Yeah. So, what actually makes it a genuine training school? Are there training schools that aren't genuine?
Well, it's a good point, but sometimes people think it's made up and it isn't for real
Yeah.
because it just sounds so bonkers. But it is actually a real thing. We started it 25 years ago, actually,
Yeah.
because I just finished working as an elf at a large department store in London. And I'd noticed, because in those days, there was no way of booking things via the internet in advance. So people literally just showed up to see Father Christmas. So they joined the back of a queue. And there was at the back of the queue, there was a sign that said you were 2.5 hours from Santa, and people
Wow.
still joined the queue. So this queues are snaked up and down with me entertaining them for 2.5 hours. And I noticed that after putting up with me for all that time, the door opened and in they went to have this magical experience. But I couldn't help notice that some of the gentlemen wearing the red and white suit were slightly more magical than others, let's put it that way. And I just thought, hey, this has to be good. You know, a lot of people have been waiting a long time. A lot of little people have been getting very excited about this moment, and it needs to be done properly. So we started the Santa School with a view to making sure that anyone that booked us booked people who were prepared in every way to recreate the magic of the real Santa, who does exist, by the way. I do have to stress that.
Of
We're only
course.
helping him out. Only helping him out on those very rare occasions that he can't be in two places at once.
Yeah, and it's quite incredible because I'd never even considered that there'd be a whole training process to be Santa. I just kind of thought you just have to be an old man and maybe can act a bit, and that's it.
But look at me, I'm quite young looking, I hope. I am actually in my mid 50s. I kind of think that you need to have a certain stature. Your voice needs to have a certain resonance. And that normally comes sort of the age of 30, 35 upwards, although we have some glorious exceptions to that. But I mean, there are very basic things. When you really break it down, there are some things you really actually probably have never thought about until you're wearing the red and white suit. And kind of the logic of the situation comes in. For instance, why would Father Christmas ever need to ask a child their name? Because he's the patron saint. Santa Claus is the patron saint of children all over the world. So when a child comes in, the worst he can do is say, hello, who are you? You're Father Christmas. You know who this child is. You delivered presents to them last year, a year ago. Of course you know them. So that's number one. Number two is a question that I don't think Father Christmas ever needs to ask is, what do you want for Christmas? He knows. You've probably written to him for a start. So
Yeah.
if you're saying, if Father Christmas is asking, then he hasn't read your letter, which is very shoddy. So Father Christmas always knows. And even if myself, James, dressed as Father Christmas, doesn't know, I need to very ingeniously find out without the child realizing that I don't know. So an easy way of doing that is to list a load of nonsense that you think was on the list, and the child will then correct you, and then you're away. So, you say, oh, how about a jar of pickled onions? And they go, no, of course not. And after a few of those, after a few silly things like that, they'll generally, you'll go, oh, sorry, I'm confused. Remind me, what was top of your list? And they'll say an Xbox. And you go, yes, that's it, of course. Which leads me to point three, and then I'll stop rambling away. This is clearly a subject that I can talk about a lot. The point three is you never promise anything, because not every family in the world can afford an Xbox. And if Father Christmas says, yes, of course, the poor parents are going white with terror, thinking, how on earth are we going to live up to that? So you always say, very interesting. Well, I make no promises, but whatever I do bring, there'll be something marvelous, brought with all the love in the world. And then you're ready, you're flying by then. And then there's other things. You obviously need to look good, and you need to make sure that you know the names of your reindeer. How many can you name, Toby?
Oh, I don't know. Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, Vixen, Comet, Cupid, Donner, Blitzen, and Rudolph. Totally didn't have that in front of me.
No, you totally didn't look like you were reading that either. So that's very good. Well, that's what you need to know. And so you need to know that. You need to be able to do a pretty good ho, ho, ho. Come on, Toby, this is your moment.
Ho, ho, ho. Is that
Right,
all
you
right?
made the classic error there of saying the word ho, ho, ho. I mean, do you know a single person who laughs saying ho, ho, ho?
No.
No, you just don't do it. It sounds loony. So what you're going to do is laugh in a way that suggests the ho, ho, ho. So if you reach down to your tummy, which is padded if necessary. Luckily, I still need padding. And you reach down and you go, ho, ho, ho.
Oh, oh, oh.
Good. You sounded a little bit ill then, but I think,
Oh.
there's hope for you.
It's the
So
flu
those are
season.
just a few things we look at, as well as just the general thing of when a child comes to see Santa, they might be very excited, which is brilliant. and they might be charming and lovely, but sometimes they can be very naughty, and sometimes they can be absolutely gobsmacked and freeze in absolute awe and wonder, unable to say
Yeah.
a word. So the conversation is quite one-sided then, but you've got to make it feel natural, and confidence is very important. It's very rare that you have an audience so close to you, an audience of one standing a foot away from you, who's expecting to meet somebody magical who can improvise, be funny, be jolly, know what they want for Christmas, and generally give them a magical experience. It's it is a challenge.
Yeah. And on the subject of kind of not promising any gifts, that's what Santa always said to me, like, I'll see what I can do. And then I never got that thing. Because weirdly, whenever I went to see Santa, I would ask for something that wasn't actually on my list. I don't know why I did that. Maybe so I could get something extra.
Well, you see there, you're trying to trick the great man, which is,
Yeah.
that's fine. He does like a bit of trickery. I mean, the great man has a super sense of humour, but I'm sure you always got something nice in the end, didn't you, Toby?
Yes, and lots of
Well, there you are.
surprises and chocolate and fun. Yes.
Yeah, good. Good old
Yeah.
chocolate. That always crops up. Well, you need to know what toys are popular as well when you're
Oh, yeah.
Christmas. No point talking about yo-yos if they went out of fashion 2 years ago. You've got to know
Yeah.
up to date what everything is, how it works. Because remember, your elves make every single toy that is delivered at Christmas. So,
Oh, yeah.
you've got to know about this stuff. But,
Yeah.
this year is going to be very interesting because we've had a funny old year last year where Christmas didn't quite work out how everyone hoped it would. And I mean, we had to cancel a lot of bookings, which was a shame. But the feeling, I think, this year is looking very positive. And we've been involved, as you may or may not know, with a survey with the Great Movie Christmas Channel, which has been uncovering how this Christmas is looking, how people are feeling. And according to the survey, over 44% of people are getting more excited about this Christmas than ever before.
Wow.
Quite a specific statistic, that. I don't know how it got to be 44%. And I think that'll grow. I mean, I'm pretty pumped up. I hope you are too.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking this year is going to be pretty incredible.
Yeah, definitely. And how did it work last year? Because I can't really remember. Were Santas allowed at that point in 2020?
No, it was all about, do you remember about a week or two before Christmas, everything stopped.
Oh,
So
yeah.
lots of bookings had begun. So some of the grottos had maybe begun, people that were doing grottos, although people were quite nervous about it. I created a marvellous mask, actually, that made the news, which was a red mask with white fur around the edge for Father Christmas to wear. It was brilliant.
Oh,
So
wow.
we were able to provide Santas completely safely. And I designed a completely COVID-friendly grotto as well, to the point where instead of giving the present to a child, Father Christmas had the present on a little sleigh that I just asked the child to pull towards them.
Wow.
And the present delivered themselves to the child. It was genius. Anyway, so there were ways of doing it, but unfortunately, by about a week or so before Christmas last year, everything stopped, and so Santa was quite busy online, actually, which I think he enjoyed. He quite enjoyed his virtual appearances, which was nice to see. But this year, I'm thinking there will be more face-to-face stuff. I've certainly got some bookings this year, so that's good, isn't it? So hopefully, fingers crossed, people are going to be meeting Father Christmas and having a magical time face-to-face with him. Because I think this year there's a lot of build-up. A lot of Christmas is all about the build-up, and I think we should probably this year people are going to start getting ready for it earlier than ever.
Yeah, definitely.
And one thing that we've been looking at actually is Christmas movies, of course. I mean, what is the easiest way to get excited about Christmas is to watch a movie in many ways. I think you can put your tree up a bit early sometimes. You can put the decorations up a little early. But once you settle down to watch a film, there are actually nothing more you need than maybe a glass of eggnog, and you're away. Christmas is there. It's in your world again, which is great.
Have you ever come across a terrible Santa?
Yes, I have. Not working for me, I hasten to add. I mean, the worst ones, the ones that annoy me the most, and I know they mean well, but there are people who are out there on the street collecting money for charity, and quite often they're wearing the worst suit you've ever seen in your life. And I saw one a few years ago who was wearing trainers, wearing this terrible suit, a beard hanging down almost by his navel, and he was smoking a cigarette.
Oh, God.
I mean, people like that should be rounded up. They should be locked up till January. This shouldn't be allowed. It was an absolute disgrace. When you're wearing the red and white suit, you have a responsibility to be magical. And I'm very strict on that at Centre School, because when people come and see you, they're expecting to meet the real one. So, yes, people that don't dress up well this Father Christmas really shouldn't be doing it. You've got to love doing it, and you've got to love Christmas. And as I said, this year, we're getting excited about Christmas. I hope you are.
Yeah, definitely. So,
I mean, yes, carry on.
Yeah. So what's the actual process of training a Santa then? What do they go through to in order to become a good one?
Well, it's like very much like Santa School is like a rehearsal for any show, really. And
Yeah.
anyone who's been in the show, professional or amateur or otherwise, will know that it's when you turn up to watch a show, there's been weeks, often months of preparation beforehand. And so,
Yeah.
first thing is we equip everyone with a fantastic costume, which costs about £1,000. And the beards as well have to be very realistic because the child is quite close up. If you're wearing a dodgy beard, then game over really. So they cost another £1,000.
Wow.
So you're wearing 2 grand's worth of kit. So you've got to look good and you've got to look smart and you've got to have your, all your buttons done up in a row with the belt buckled, absolutely in line with the buttons. He has to look immaculate.
Yeah.
And then so we start with making sure you look good, and then we do the ho ho ho, and then we talk a bit about the history of the man. He's been going a long time. Started off as Ursius Nicolaus many hundreds of years ago in Asia Minor, and somehow he ended up in the snowy plains of the North Pole, which is funny. That's an interesting point. Is it the North Pole or Lapland? So I made, because people talk about both and they're different places. Yeah. So I made the unilateral decision about 15 years ago that actually the workshop's in Lapland and he lives in the North Pole. And no one's ever disagreed with me, so I'm presuming that's actually how it works. So you need to know who you are, as you are with any character. You need to know the names of the reindeer, as you've so brilliantly demonstrated you do. That gift of knowing how to answer difficult questions is very important. So if a child asks, are you the real Santa? Or they might say, Santa, I don't have a chimney. How are you going to deliver the presents? Or, you need to be ready with every answer and be ready to answer questions that you're not ready for. So we like to think that in the back of your mind, your shells are packed with things to talk about. I think you'll be probably not very surprised to hear this. I think I could probably do 45 minutes quite happily as Father Christmas because I've got lots I could talk about. And that's a great comfort blanket to know when somebody comes to meet you, which may only be for 3 or 4 minutes, to know that I'm never going to run out of things to say, because there's nothing worse in any form of children's theatre when children are watching. There's nothing worse than running out of material. They will let you know pretty soon that they're not impressed. So you need to be ready and you need to be equipped to deflect and take conversations where you need to take them. And you also need to know how to end the conversation. That's important. You don't want to chuck the child out of your grotto, so you've got to end it in a very natural way. And that's where the reindeer are very useful, because as I'm talking to you now, I suddenly, yes, I just heard a little tap on the roof. I think that was a hoof. It was a hoof on the roof. I think I've got to go feed the reindeer. I better go and do that. And after that, I may watch a Christmas movie. You never know. What's your favourite Christmas movie, Toby?
Oh, The Muppet Christmas Carol, of course.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
It's a great one. That is overlooked in many ways. I mean, you're clearly a Muppet fan, because I can see a massive picture of the Muppets behind you. And I think that is a marvellous, marvellous film. It's a real tearjerker. There are many films, actually. The channel that did the survey that we're involved in, the Great Movies Christmas channel, has loads of films that I hadn't heard of, actually. So I challenge you to watch another 10 new Christmas movies between now and Christmas.
Okay.
My personal favourite, not that you asked, but I'll tell you anyway. My personal favourite is probably It's a Wonderful Life. Although the best one with Father Christmas in, it's a good one, this, because everyone loves Miracle on 34th Street, which is a super film. But there are 2 versions of it. And the original in black and white is probably the better film, I think. It's slightly more magical. But Richard Attenborough in the second version, the remake, is the most marvellous Father Christmas. And anyone who's thinking of coming to Santa School or wondering whether or what it takes to actually inhabit the role, just watch him. He has charm, he has style, he has humour. He definitely has magic about him. And so that's a good one.
Yeah, definitely. So when you take this course, how long does it take?
Well, that's a very good question, because excuse me. That's a very good question. Everybody who comes along is at different maybe levels of knowledge about the role. A complete novice may take a few days. I mean, we don't take anyone on unless we think they're going to be good. So the people we meet throughout the year, you can tell pretty much immediately. It sounds very corny, but you can tell pretty much immediately whether somebody has what it takes.
Yeah.
Just by the way they talk. And if somebody sounds fun, if there's a twinkle in their eye and they're able to improvise and they like performing for children, then that's a good start. So you generally know if that happens, that this could be a potential. Yeah. But you'll be very surprised to know how quickly people can dry up if they're asked a difficult question. I use our elves as children at Santa School. So over the days that we're doing the training, elves come in and pretend to be children and ask all the difficult questions. And it's quite amazing to see how some people are incapable of dealing with difficult questions. So those kind of people, when I say incapable, I mean when they first start. So we have to teach them stock answers. So that can take a few days. But to get really good at it, a day or two's training is all you need just to get the basics, and you need to get your patter in your head. But then you've got to get out there and perform to children, and very much like a pantomime or even a children's party in somebody's home, really. The task of learning how to do the role properly takes a long time, because every day you'll get asked a new question. So it's just building up the confidence to be able to deal with it. And I feel quite bulletproof, although I'm never so cocky that I think I've got this, because every day I will be surprised by a question. And some things are quite sad, actually, Toby. Some people come in and ask very sad questions. That they might ask Father Christmas if Daddy can come home. That's quite tough, isn't it? You've got to be able to deal with that without trivializing it. You've got to turn it around and make it jolly again. Or somebody might say, can you make my little brother better, or make me better? These are tough things, situations. They don't happen that often, but you need to be ready. And you always need to remember that as Father Christmas, your role is to make people happy. So you've got to make sure whatever conversation is taking place, it's got to have a very positive, upbeat feeling. And that's, it's able to do that even with those difficult questions. It's Father Christmas's role to say, whatever happens, I'm going to make sure you have a good Christmas this year.
Yeah, definitely. So how are you spending your Christmas? Are you up to anything fun, or have you not really planned it yet?
Well, I'll be busy, I would imagine. I'm permanently on the bench, actually. So whilst I don't book myself out for week-long bookings at a time, I've always got a costume at the ready, because the worst phone call I can get in December, second half of December, the worst phone call I can get is at 7:30 in the morning is a gentleman coughing. I go, oh gosh. Because when we're at full capacity, so imagine we've got 50 Father Christmases working in a day, for instance. By then you're at full stretch. And if one person's ill, then you've got a lot of reorganizing to do. And but I do stress, by the way, that don't worry, when you go and see Santa with your nephew, niece, child, whatever, you will be seeing the real one. So don't panic. We are only helping them out with these extras. I have to, in a situation where the coughing gentleman rings, I have to pick up my bag and run. And I have done, actually. I think my quickest, I managed to make it from my house in Bromley into the West End in about 45 minutes, and then had like 5 minutes to get ready, and then was on. Because when they open the door, they don't know anything. They're just expecting Father Christmas has appeared. He's landed on the roof, and there he is. And there's no way he doesn't show up. He's always going to be there. Santa will not let people down. So I'll be spending my time probably doing a little bit of that. Hopefully not too much. Hopefully everyone will be healthy this year, and just enjoying the fact that there's magic in the air again. And I think we all deserve a bit of that. And that's what Christmas brings us, and that's what in particular Father Christmas is able to bring us.
Definitely. So where can we sign up for the course, and also where are all the locations that we can visit your Santas? Well,
to sign up for the course, you need to get in touch with the Ministry of Fun. There's a website. It's ministryofFun.net. So get in touch and say, hello, I'm interested in Santa School. But as regards the other stuff, I mean, as I said earlier, when you go, you're meeting the real one. So you don't need to know where we're helping. It's a closely guarded secret from that point of view. But just be sure that when you go to a grotto and the door opens and you walk in, it's the real one.
Yeah. Great. Well, thanks very much for joining us on the show today, and have a great Christmas when it comes.
Thank you, Toby. It's been lovely talking to you. You have a good Christmas, and happy Christmas to all your listeners too. Ho, ho, ho!